Hello, and welcome to the meeting. This meeting is now being recorded.
Hello and welcome to Dog Show Mentor. Today I'm talking with Brian Cordova, expert in advertising for dog publications. In our pre-interview discussion, I found out that through fate or possibly fervor, Brian worked with some of the greats in dogs. And when I say greats, I mean the whole world, not just the US. And I'll show you some pictures in a minute, but Brian was a professional handler of poodles for over 30 years. And he's had a passion for a long time in dogs and for dogs. He shared with me a little known fact about himself, and that is that as a kid, he was known as the kid in junior high who smuggled the AKC Gazette into his math book in school. So this is a person who is passionate about dogs since he was very young. He's bred many beautiful dogs himself and had the honor of handling many others by dedicated breeders. This is a picture of him with the judge is Bill Cunningham, who is now deceased. But he was one of the great poodle judges of all time throughout the world. And here Brian is pictured with his protege, Daniel Chavez. And Daniel is also a very good friend. This dog is Champion Den for Avalon All That, or Afton. And he is shown here winning the group at the Westminster Kennel Club in 2017. And he was co-bred by Janet Lang Moses, Jimmy Moses, Daniel, and of course, Brian. That must have been a really exciting win. And Brian retired from professional handling in 2005 and has been enjoying the involvement in the sport through the publication side since then. He was originally from Colorado, now in California, in Southern California, and he works for a national sales representative and relationship manager for Showsite Magazine, which is part of the Era Media Group. And these publications, Top Notch Toys, Sight and Scent, The Orient Express, Doberman Digest, and annual Breeder's Almanac are all under the Era Media Corporation. And here's Brian at the Westminster Kennel Club, and I'm going to ask you, Brian, to please talk a little bit about what these next two photographs are all about. So welcome.
Thank you, Lee. My pleasure to do this conversation. The photo that you're looking at now is me, my former boss and publisher, Susan Rourke, and my associate, Tammy Ginsell, sitting on the front row of the press box at the Westminster Kennel Club last year, which I've always been afforded that honor to view the show from that angle. And I had the pleasure at this time of watching my own poodle bred by Daniel Chavez and co-bred by myself, owned by Jim Moses and Janet Lang Moses, win the group there. And then we watched her compete for Best in Show at Westminster that year. Biggest honor of my life, for sure.
I can only imagine what that must have felt like.
Right. Okay, now we're looking at a photo. This is me at the Show Dogs of the Year event, which I had the pleasure of working on for 12 years when it was owned by first Bowtie Publications and then Lumina Media. After the unfortunate demise of Richard Beauchamp, I was honored to take over the nominating committee for the special awards at this event. And this is probably a picture of me announcing those winners or the nominees.
Would you talk a little bit about how your background as a top breeder and professional handler helps you in your position at ShowSite?
Well, I'll tell you, you talked a little bit earlier about the print advertising, and when I talked about smuggling early dog magazines into my junior high and high school classes with inside my textbooks. I mean, I think that advertising has gotten sort of a bad rap because it's not all about just trying to secure a win for the next weekend. It's about educating people about beautiful dogs and teaching young people about breeding and showing on really all levels. Of course, we have clients at ShowSite that are librarians, and we have clients that are billionaires, and their budgets are slightly different, but we try to give everybody exactly the same treatment. And we know that every ad that we do may be a quintessential advertising moment for whoever the client is, and we try and share those moments with our worldwide audience, and that includes junior handlers to best in show Westminster judges and everything in between. So, and we do that through our show distribution, and we provide publications to everybody that's an AKC registered judge, and anybody that judges anywhere in the world. All they need to do is contact us, and we can share, a great entertainment publication with good editorial and educational content. And that's our goal. That's
a really interesting approach, educating people about beautiful dogs. And
well, that's the thing about a glossy publication. We're a monthly. There are others that do a beautiful job with weekly publications, and I think that's a necessary evil, because if you have a major win today, it can be on somebody's coffee table in a week. We're slightly more challenged that we do a monthly publication, and at Era Media, we try and give equal time to our 5 publications, and we can't get out but once a month. But so I feel that it's really important to me that we use top designers, the best photographers, and have these ads really be impactful. Whatever your budget.
That's really interesting to me to hear. So you really have a broader, big picture approach. Can you talk a little bit about how that differs from that weekly bang approach?
Well, when I was, I used weekly publications on a regular as a handler trying to promote my own dogs and my clients' dogs. And I believe it's necessary and beautiful, and I enjoyed it and loved it. But, for the magazine that has, breed features that are interesting that people keep and refer to, and educational stuff that people want to read on a regular basis, that's on their coffee table, or in my case, occupy 3 shelves in my garage of publications, then I think, I don't want to say that anyone has a shelf life longer than the other, but some of them have shelf lives longer than the other. So
So it's really the impression that I'm getting is that this kind of magazine that ShowSite is for serious fanciers who really want to delve into possibly some historical knowledge from the articles that are written by longtime breeders and judges. It has a different strategy and approach to why you want people to look at your dog?
Well, I think that's the truth, and I think that's why why I was brought on, and my partner Tammy Ginsell was brought on board. Um, AJ and his beautiful wife Hanifa are totally devoted into making this publication into, just the best it could possibly be. We have all the support of our editor and creator, Joe McGinnis. And, I think we've just, I feel like we're putting the band back together. We've got Alan Resnick on board, who was the editor in chief of Dogs in Review for all those years. We've got Dan Sayers, who's a brilliant writer, designer, artist, etc. And we just have really, we're just really working hard to turn the whole magazine around to be focused on the dogs, the breeders, educating the public and entertaining people, and featuring beautiful dogs, the most beautiful dogs in the country. And proudly, I feel like we have that kind of representation now with all of the top dogs in the country are coming on board, and I think everybody else is going to follow. And we want to support it with outstanding editorial and just a beautiful layout. AJ has done an amazing job working. We redesigned the masthead and reconfigured the layout of the book to make it, just to comparable to really not dog magazines, but comparable to some of the best publications in the country, referencing Vanity Fair and GQ magazine, and utilizing beautiful fonts and placements. And anyway, it's a very exciting venture. I've only been on board now. Tammy and I came over just when sadly Dogs in Review closed. We've been here since July. Tammy and I both chose we made the decision not to publish an August book because we already knew the unfortunate demise of the publication, and we didn't feel it was the right way to handle it with our clients. But thankfully, most of our good clients have followed us over here, and that are happy with us and the service we provide. And, everything's going great. So I couldn't be more excited about this. We're going to be in Florida in December, making a huge splash. I think we'll have 8 people on the floor every day in Orlando. And we're just excited. So come over and say hello.
Well, congratulations on your move. And it sounds like a great move. Yeah. And just for the Dog Show Mentor members, AJ is the owner of Era Media.
Yes, AJ Arapovic and his wife Hanifa. He's super young. He's young enough to be my son, but he's very motivated, super smart. They have a really interesting story, which I don't know if it's appropriate to get into now, but they're very ambitious and driven young people. And like I said, I think that they have the foresight to bring in just the best people that they can, and that's our kind of our goal. And I'm happy to be on board, to be assisting, and inspiring where I can. But the show site's now like a 350-page book. And I want it to be like a 400-page book, maybe.
Okay, so you have goals, and that's good because we talk about goals a lot in Dog Show Mentor.
I feel like the goal is to keep it at 400 pages. I've had so many people tell me that, they like to throw the magazine, that they don't even open it out of the cellophane when it gets to the house, and they like to throw it in their briefcase and read it on the plane or in the hotel room. And the only time I ever enjoyed a 500-page magazine was when it was Christmas time and I was going through the Sears catalog picking out my Christmas list. Other than that, it needs to have some content because I'm not a kid and I'm not waiting for presents anymore. I want something to read. I want something that, that inspires kids, educates adults, and is visibly beautiful.
Well, it sounds like you do that. And so what I'd like to know,
it's a lot of help from a lot of people.
Right. And I think
it's a team. It's a big team.
So I think what I want to ask you is, so at Dog Show Mentor, we talk a lot about goals, and we talk about using every ethical strategy available to us to win in the ring. And what I'd like to find out is the big question that I've gotten is how to put that into practice, and what is the industry's approach to helping clients and advertisers be the most successful? How will you help people in dogs reach their goals through advertising?
Well, I mean, I think I'm limited. I don't want to give myself that much power. But I mean, it's the media is strong, social media and print media, whether or not people choose to believe it. There are 4 or 5, competitive publications, all that do, beautiful jobs and have smart people putting it together. So, you have to sort of have a niche. I think. I want to have this publication be the one that has an interest in breeders and education. But so that's what we'll do. I mean, we offer the gamut of budgets. So you can buy covers or back covers or upfront spreads. But I think if we divide it all up with good commentary and good education, that editorial, people are going to read it and see it. And I'm a lefty, so I read a magazine from the back to the front. So I think that we maybe have talked about that before, about placement and stuff like that. But the back cover to me in most magazines is the front cover. I know I'm in a minority being a lefty, but we do that. We try to get the magazine in front of people at the dog shows. We print thousands of copies of the magazine every month, and it's usually in front of people all the time, and it's in front of the judges. But I guess that's what I would say is we just try and give you visibility, and that's the best we can do.
So do you ever hear, like, as a judge, I hear from other judges, oh, I don't look at the pictures, I just read the articles. And I sort of scoff at that because all I can think of is Playboy magazine. And that's exactly what, right? Isn't that exactly what people used to say? Oh, I don't look at the pictures. And it's true that Playboy used to have these fabulous articles, but
I never read one. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. I mean, I don't believe that to be true. That's why, it's important to me to feature, oh my God, the best. I was thinking just the other day how amazing it was. And, I'm a Facebook guy, so I probably overshare a lot, but I read a lot of that stuff. And I try to promote the publication and the sport through it in a positive way. People do look at the pictures. And I think that's why I try to keep ad content minimal, have it impactful, have a beautiful picture, use tremendous photographers like Vicki Holloway and Derek Gloss and Rhonda Cassidy and Mike McGuire. This last month we had amazing original artwork by Heidi Martin on a back cover with the top winning Borzoi in the history of the breed. And I mean, that's the kind of publication I want to put out. Like, oh my God, did you see that Heidi Martin ad of Lucy the Borzoi on the back cover? And the beautiful dachshund that was on the cover of our magazine last night, or Teresa Nesbitt won back-to-back Best in Shows last weekend. I just want we can deliver that. So that's what we do. I have all the support in the world with AJ and Showsite Magazine to get it out there on the floor. We've got boots on the ground all over the country, passing out the book, and and he's asking my opinion. Sometimes I imagine it's not probably the best, but it is what it is. But I do have some experience. I do know some stuff, and I come to this thing as a breeder, an owner, a handler, a client, and an advertiser. I've had all
and
those.
that's why we're here today, is so that we can pick your brain. So, being the devil's advocate, just for a moment.
Okay.
The big question that everyone asks me is, well, how do you know that advertising is effective? How is it effective, and with whom?
Well, I guess it's all relative. I don't know that there's a definite answer to that, but I think we already talked. This affected me since I was advertising at whatever level. Was it in a Gazette? And I'm looking at the beautiful top winning English foxhound Jill that I remember as a kid that Stanley Flowers, who I never knew, showed. But I know that name, and I think it's Briarcliff, but I don't want to, I'm sure somebody will quote me as being wrong, but close. But and being totally excited about that. The pug, Woodchuck, is that what's his name? Dandy's favorite Woodchuck. Anyway, all those dogs that I loved so much, and so advertising has always made an impact, one way or the other. If it's on a kid from Colorado in his math class, or if it's the judge that's doing Best in Show at the Garden, they may say they're just reading the articles, but as long as I make the advertising beautiful, and I have the support of these great designers, which we have Gay Glasbrook and Derek Gloss and Jeff Hainlin. This advertising has become a whole new thing. The clients are savvy, the artists are amazing, and it's just it's kind of an exciting place to be right now in my world.
Well, from my perspective, we're all visual, and that even if you're only reading the articles, you have to flip through past those photographs and those ads. And as you pointed out, the ads are beautiful. And anyone who's visual wants to look at that ad. How can you not want to look at a beautiful dog that's beautifully presented? If you're a dog show judge, you want to see that. And so that's how when people ask me, well, do you, that's one of the things that comes up for me. Do you think that there's that subliminal factor too in advertising?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's what the whole word means is, it's just in your head. You just, just like a catchphrase or anything else. Sometimes we have how many characters on Twitter to get our point across or something. Sometimes you're not selling the steak, you're selling the sizzle.
Ooh, there you go.
And, so you just got to, make it quick. You have a beautiful picture, very little distraction. I want to see your beautiful dog, your handler's face, and a blue ribbon. And that's, I think, the best way, because there's nothing more. That's the sort of the definition of subliminal. Hopefully you're reading the articles, because we're really picking the brains of some really smart people and giving them really important assignments to talk to. Gee, there's just such a gigantic wealth of people in this country that I think are just not tapped, or have been tapped and in the past and need to be revisited. And I feel like an OG from the OC. I'm pushing, I'm mid 50s now, and I spent my entire life in this sport. Been very, very fortunate to put myself in contact with really good people. And I started out with Bruce Clark and Stephen Fisher with Afghan Hounds in Colorado. When my mother drove me to their house to watch their dogs because I couldn't drive yet. And then as soon as I moved out west, I went to work for Murphy Wooldridge and Tim Brazier. And I met all the people that were involved with them and sculpted their lives, and Eddie and Leslie Boys, and through them the Clarks and Tim Brazier, Tom and Ann Stevenson, Ann Rogers Clark and Jim, of course, and Ed Jenner and Luke Ballou.
You worked with some amazing people. You're very fortunate.
Yeah, I am. I feel like very fortunate, but it's not by accident. And I learned about all these people through, for all those haters out there that don't like print advertising and say that it's destructive on whatever level or not beneficial. It educated me. It changed my life in a lot of positive ways, and I'm going to continue to support it and try and create just the best version of it that I can through my knowledge.
And I want to say here that as a judge and as a member of the dog show community, I really appreciate the in-depth interviews that you do with some of these longtime people who are extremely knowledgeable. And
right, there's going to be more. There's going to be more.
I'm glad to hear that. So
yeah.
So do you think that, sort of stepping back again to the effect and the impact and the bang, do you think that people who advertise are concerned about other people coming up with a strategy against them as a result of their advertising? Does that ever come up?
Well, I've got to say that, very rarely, because I am an optimist, a blind-eyed optimist. I like to think that people are innately good and that the purpose of their advertising is to, showcase their own dog. I don't think it's, I hate to think that there's anybody strategizing against anybody else. We obviously require people only publish stats that are accurate and confirmable. That if I can't look it up and in 5 seconds and tell you that you're not claiming the right thing, but sometimes people get a little bit snarky, and I never. If I'm involved, I don't. I always tell them, I don't feel like that's this is not the forum to air your dirty laundry or strategize. But obviously, advertising is a strategy. That's what it's kind of all about. Ask Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Everybody wants to outdo the other person, but we just try and do it. I think it's important that we just do it with class and stats, and that we're just honest. We deliver a beautiful product, and but yeah, there's strategy involved. It's people do ads focusing on particular times of the year. If it's Montgomery for terrier people, or pre-PCA for poodle people, before Westminster or our upcoming show coming up in Florida. And so, those are strategies, and I think they help. I think it's just visibility. There's nothing wrong. Nobody can complain about that. I don't know if it's a strategy, as long as you just put it out there.
So if I called you up and said, I really want to advertise I have a TT, young dog. I really want to advertise my young dog. What is that conversation going to be like? What kind of questions are you going to ask me about
Well, I mean, so first of all, I'm just going to ask you, what is your intention? Um, do because there are really a lot of breeds that have quality publications or uh, bulletins, national club bulletins, or something. I mean, is that where you need to advertise? But or do you want to appeal to a bigger audience, to our worldwide audience in Australia and you know Asia, South America, Canada, or what? So what is your strategy? And then let's just make a plan. We'll talk about who is the decision maker on your dog, and what is your budget, and what shows are you focusing on? Are you going to Florida? Are you going to New York? Are you going to Santa Barbara? And then proceed from there. I mean, I always recommend, um, like I said, beautiful photos. That's what I can say. I have great working relationship with some tremendous artists in this business, and that's been my pleasure. So I can help. I can do that, and I just say, let's take your advertising dollar and make the most of it. That's the best strategy, and
And,
put it out there.
and so if someone came to you and said, here's a photograph that I think is great, and you would just run with the ad, you would help them create a copy and figure out what kind of colors they wanted to use, and so you would help design that,
Yeah,
or you have someone.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we have a really good production department here, and I've only been on board for a little while. This is probably my fourth publication that I'm working on right now, our November issue that we'll be featuring in Florida. But we have a really good art department, and we have a good conversation going, even though I've not, mostly all of us work remotely. So I'm in here on the West Coast, and a lot of people are in Florida. AJ and Hanifa are in Austin, Texas, and we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna have a big powwow in Florida. But yeah, no, I mean, I have a lot of experience personally working with all those departments. You know, I mean, I know sales and marketing, and a little bit with design. I work with production. You know, on a daily basis. And I write copy, and I've occasionally written articles, and I actually can write, but it's not my job right now, and we have a lot of really good people in place to do that. So I'm going to try and concentrate on what I'm doing. But yeah, no, we're full service, you know, fluff and fold.
Yeah, a lot of people who haven't advertised before ask about, well, how does this work? What do I do? How do I decide? And so these are some of the questions that I've been asking you is, so how do these things happen? And so you're giving some great answers. I appreciate it, Brian. So when it comes to photos, one of the things we talk about at Dog Show Mentor is only putting online or in print beautiful photographs of your dog, not pet shots, unless that is the
Yes.
purpose of it. No dogs covered in mud. Nothing with the dog looking homely. That everything should be aesthetically as pleasing as possible. And so you sent me this photograph, and I love this because it is so exactly what I think of when I think of a great photo to use for advertising. Would you talk about this and just share a little bit about your philosophy at ShowSite with quality photographs?
What photo am I looking at? This picture with me and this white poodle?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, okay. That was a photo that was taken by Lisa Croft Elliott, who's a world famous designer and a poodle person uh, by nature. And she took that at Poodle Club of America. I believe I won the variety there that year under Jordan Chamberlain, and who was a white miniature poodle breeder. He bred the very famous top winning white miniature poodle that Edwards showed, won the Grip of the Garden, I believe, twice, called Champion JLC Critique. And he gave her that variety. And that photo was, like I said, photographed by Lisa Croft Elliott, and it was used by Royal Canin in an advertising campaign for a brief moment. But that's what that photo is
So
all about.
what in your, from an advertising standpoint, when you look at this, what do you see from an expert perspective?
Well, I love this photo. I bred and owned this dog with my ex-partner and her owner, co-breeder and co-owner, Cindy Chaddock, and her husband, Terry. Um, this bitch had just tremendous attitude, and she exemplified poodle type. Really, she checked all the boxes. She was just pretty enough. She was athletic enough. She was, we can use the word poodly to describe a Chihuahua or a Commodore, and we all kind of know what that means. Well, she was poodly, and this is why that word exists.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I just love beautiful photos, and I mean I saw one this week of an Afghan hound dog that's been doing a lot of winning lately, moving, and his handler kicked her shoes off because she couldn't do what that dog needed to do that day with her shoes on, and I mean it just was so impactful. And so we're doing it. We're working up an ad right now on this dog, and I want it to be a moment. That's what I want this ad to be. So we'll look at it. We'll run it through production and design, and then we'll all review it, the owners and myself, and if it needs to be tweaked. But I mean, just stuff like that. I want those incredible photos. Those photos that are a moment in time. That's what I want. That's what I want. That's what I want. I want the magazine people to open it and say, "Oh, did you see that amazing picture? Did you see that?"
And I can't wait to see that ad because I've seen that dog, and
yeah,
I'm breathless thinking about him. So I'll look for that.
He's pretty breathless.
So, and here's another photo that I love that's so advertising quality because of it appears to be a moment in time. You are with rapt attention, and so is that the bitch? Same bitch?
It's a female. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is the same one.
Yeah. Your rapt attention and her rapt attention just grab the viewer.
Yeah,
and
we sort of had a connection.
Yeah, and this is the kind of photograph that I think people should use that grabs your attention because it's so spectacular, not just because it's your pet and you love it.
Right. Well, it's been painted by a couple of people. Like I said earlier, I have a lot of artist friends that I've had the opportunity to meet through my work, and but this photograph was I think it was done in I guess it's chalk on a gray background by Dan Sayers, which sits in a frame on my living room table. But yeah, I mean there are like some photos like that just need to be featured, and I want to be involved. I want to be involved. I want to have that. I want people to share those moments with me. Like I said, that back cover last month by Heidi Martin, that was so amazing, and I was so thrilled to do that. I've got this Afghan hound ad coming up this next month that we're so excited about, and I mean, there's just a lot of beautiful dogs out there right now that I just want them to be in the book. That's what I want. I want to, and that goes all back to, and like I said, I don't care if they're owned by a billionaire or a librarian, and that's no offense to librarians, but I'm just saying the gamut. There are a lot of beautiful dogs in this country, and I just want, if we're going to write about them And I want, these pictures to say it, to just tell the rest of the story.
I couldn't agree more. And as I said, as someone who receives the magazine, thank you. Appreciate everything that goes into that. So I just have a couple more questions, Brian. And they have to do with the other publications from Era Media. One of our members said that she would only advertise show wins to gain recognition for future litters, and she talked a little bit about breed-specific publications. And since Era Media has a couple of two group publications, the Sight and Scent for hounds, and the Top Notch Toys, and then the Pekingese Orient Express and the Doberman Digest. Can you talk a little bit about how you help people strategize whether they want to be in Show Sight or if they want to be in one of those magazines? Can you just talk about that a little bit?
Well, I can a little bit, but like I said, I've only been on board for a few months. I haven't crossed over into the other publications. All those mastheads have their own sales reps. I'm certainly able to cross over if I have a Doberman client into, one of the other publications, but I don't really know. I know that by policy, selling puppies and promoting litters is not on our agenda. And, as I don't believe that we really encourage that on any level. And I would think certainly going forward here, I don't edit those magazines and I don't really have any say in the content, but I know that with Joe McGinnis as the creator of these magazines and AJ as his protege, that we all understand that that's not what we're, that's not at all what we do.
Okay.
So yeah, no, if something shows up, and I do proof all the ads that go into Show Sight, which is our flagship publication and what I, actually work on. But, if anything like that shows up, and, those red flags will be read by, quite a few people before we get to that point. And certainly we don't encourage that. If you want to sell your puppies, I think there are other venues for that. Certainly not Show Sight magazine or anything with Era Media.
So, in closing, I'd like to ask you what else you would like to tell the Dog Show Mentor members before we close here about anything about your philosophy or what your passion is for people who are in the sport between 1 year and 20 years, like our members who are coming up through the ranks. They're learning how to win more, have more group placements, really setting goals for the future. What would you like to say to them?
Well, I think the first and foremost, I would say educate yourself and, find a good mentor. And I don't know if that geographically is challenging to you, but make the effort because this is really important. These are live animals. They're a huge responsibility. Their pedigrees and heritage are our responsibility. And the best that you can do, the least you can do, is educate yourself about, the proper what health issues these dogs have, and where you sell your animals. I bred for really a short period of time, super successfully, and during that time, I kept only 2 male poodles ever. And only because they were from, irreplaceable pedigrees. And then I didn't let anybody use them because I just was protective of them that way. And I just say, educate yourself, get the best dogs you can. And if you're going to have an advertising moment, just take beautiful pictures of beautiful dogs and, share it with the world. And we'll be here to help educate the population. That's what we want to do. So that's thank you so much for calling and offering me the opportunity to chat with you today.
Well, it's been a thrill, and I feel like I know a lot more than I did before we started, and I bet so will the members of this program. So thank
I
you
hope
so
so.
much.
I hope so. And thank you.
Bye for
Yeah.
now.
All right. Goodbye.